I'm paying my bills on time. I'm not maxing out my credit cards, but y'all, my credit score will still not increase. In this video, I want to break down the number one reason why our credit score is not increasing and how we can fix it fast. Let's get into it. Now, the number one reason that we're going to say that our credit score is not increasing is because of our payment history. And our payment history is 35% of our credit score. And then we have our credit utilization, 30%, our length of credit, 15%, our new credit, 10%, and our credit mix, 10%. But over time, y'all, for the most part, I will make sure that I'm not having any late payments, even though I have had late payments in the past. My length of credit is good. But once I tackle this one thing, y'all, I took my credit score from a 681 to over a 750. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. So the number one reason that our credit score is not increasing is because of our credit card utilization. And our credit card utilization is 30% of our credit score. And if we want to increase our credit score fast, we have to tackle our credit card utilization. And I say usually take a look at it in two ways. One, we want to take a look at it for our overall credit utilization. So how many credit cards do you have and how much do you have for your credit limits minus how much you owe on each of those credit cards. And that's going to give our overall credit utilization. But also, we want to take a look at our individual credit cards to see, okay, how much am I reporting on each of those credit cards? Because it does matter. So it's important to look at it overall and each credit card. So when I go on to the experience side, it's going to state if we want to be high achievers, we really want our credit card utilization for our overall credit profile to be 7% or less. But, I say, start where you can. So if you have high utilization, how can we get it down a little bit? And so if that means getting it down to 30% and then just tackling it from there, then that's what you have to do. So let's say if you have a credit card that is $4,000, then really you don't want to report over $280 because that's going to be over 7%. But really you have to take a look at your profile and see what's going to be the best percentage for you. But for me, I usually try to report 7% or less, but really I'm going to be reporting less than that. Because you got to think, let's say if you have 5 credit cards and you are reporting over 30% on each of those credit cards, then that's going to make your credit score go down because you're reporting high credit card utilization on all of those credit cards. But y'all, let me tell y'all, the other week, I had 2 of my credit cards. So this is going to be my Chase Southwest credit card and my Chase American Airlines Platinum card. So y'all, I had reported 26% on my Chase Southwest credit card, and I had reported 41% on my Chase American Airlines Platinum credit card. And I was just like, dang, because it was like, it just got me to where, usually I'll pay it down before the statement date, but I had just forgot and I let it report. And I'm just like, man, that was a high percentage. But just think if I was doing that on all of my credit cards, then it can really impact it. But the good thing for me is, even though I reported high on 2 of my credit cards, my overall credit card utilization was only maybe like 3%. So it didn't really impact me as much. But if I do that, and if I was to do that on a lot of my credit cards, then that's how it would impact me. And so I would say the most important piece of our credit card utilization is to see when is our creditors going to be reporting to the credit bureau. Because if I didn't want to report, 26 and 41%, then I really just wanted to see, okay, when are those credit cards going to be reporting? And usually that's what I do, but I had got a little bit busy and then I didn't, pay it down to the 7%. Or, just pay it off. And then that's how I ended up, losing a few points. And so it's very important for us to take a look at our statement to see, so what is our minimum payment due? And then when is it going to be reporting to the credit bureau so that we can pay it down before it reports? So the thing is, like in the beginning, I said, well, one, I'm not maxing out my credit cards, but since I had let it report those high percentages, then that knocked my credit score down a little bit. So it's important to see when is it going to be reporting, because it's not like you can't use your credit card, because it's like, on the one hand, depending on how many credit cards that you have, is it realistic to only report $280, especially if you're only using one or two credit cards for all of your spend? But see, the thing is, if we pay it down prior to the statement date, then that's what makes it a little bit more reasonable because it's just like, I use my credit cards for pretty much 90% of my, my spend. It's only a few things that I'm not putting on my credit card. So, I would just want to make sure, possibly either to pay it down a couple of times, during that month, or just make sure at the statement date, a few days before, that I'm paying it down so that I'm not reporting, high credit card utilization. And so normally that's what I do, but every so often it'll happen to where I report. But since I'm still not reporting a high utilization, even though I did lose a couple of points, and that's not good. But since my credit score is, over a 750, your score is going to fluctuate periodically. But if your score is like a 681, then at that point, I'm not trying to lose no points on my credit, on my credit score. But if my credit score is a little bit higher, then I have a little bit more wiggle room in that aspect. And I would say what's even more important is, even though I did let those two credit cards report 26 and over 40%, I'm still not paying any interest on my credit cards because, I still did pay it down. And I'm just gonna, even though it reported, those high percentages, I still ended up paying it down before I ended up paying interest on it. So, most of the time I'm just gonna try to make sure that I'm using my credit card and paying it down, but I just want to make sure that I'm not letting it report. And that's where it can get a little bit tricky. But it's just like, overall, your strategy is really going to depend on what are you trying to do. So I feel like with our credit card utilization, why it's so important is because, are we trying to apply for new credit cards? Are we trying to get those credit line increases? And one, do we want high credit scores? And so if we're trying to do any of those three things, then we have to make sure that we're not reporting, because if we have high credit card utilization, 50% or higher, most of the time the credit card companies are not going to be wanting to approve us for new credit cards or give us those high limits. So let's say for that Chase American Airlines Platinum card, see, at the time I had applied for two credit cards at one time. So I feel like sometimes when I apply for more than one credit card at a time, like, I got a low limit. And, with those low limits, it's like, you do a couple of spins, then you already know I'm going to have over $280. But if I just make sure that I'm paying it off at a certain time before the statement date, then that's where I can make sure that I'm reporting, less. But I would say overall, what we have to do is, one, pull our credit report or pull our credit cards to see where's our starting points of our credit card utilization. And then two, how can we do our budget so that we're making sure that we know how much money we have coming in compared to going out, so that we can pay the credit card off every month. And then three, possibly we could see about, creating a plan to pay that debt down, or even consider doing a balance transfer, so that, one, we're not paying a lot of interest on those credit cards because the interest is so high, it's just eating up those payments if we have high credit card debt. And then lastly, just making sure that we're not reporting, the high utilization to the credit bureau. So just making sure that we're understanding when our statement date is, so that we're not reporting, because ultimately we could really be doing everything right. We could be making our payments on time, not maxing out our credit cards. But if we are letting it report the higher rates, then that's where it's going to make our credit score go down, or our credit score is not going to increase. And it's only because how we're letting it report to the credit bureau. So that's why I think that it's important to do that. And you'll have to let me know which of those tips are you going to use so that you can increase your credit score fast. But I hope that this video was helpful. Please like, subscribe, share with a friend, and turn your notification bell on so you'll be notified when new content drops. I thank you so much for watching. Until next time. Are you looking for a way to keep track of your monthly budget? Well, check out my 2025 digital budget planner. I posted it on my Etsy shop. You can go into the description and click on the link. In the budget, you have goal setting, you have a monthly budget, a debt repayment, you have a savings tracker. So check out the 2025 digital budget planner on my Etsy shop.